Yo, it's your boy TTK and welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet video. Today, this video is going to be a bit more focused on Monotype. We are just going to be doing Monotype videos for the time being because frankly, I don't want to play OU and the lower tiers haven't been made yet. So, Monotype is something I've been playing a lot of in Generation 9 so far in the past 2 weeks or so. Yeah, it's been a fun time, honestly. And today's video is going to be focusing on Mono Ghost and how to build Mono Ghost and what's good in Mono Ghost, and essentially just make sure you have the best Mono Ghost team you can have possible, because Ghost is a top 3 typing right now in Generation 9 Monotype. So if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you aren't subscribed already. We've already hit our year goal 200 subscribers, but much appreciated if you enjoy the content that this channel produces and you want to see more of it. There's going to be a lot of Gen 9 content coming, particularly for Monotype, and when obviously we have more tiers and whatnot, we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff like that. So hopefully you guys are along for the ride, much appreciated. But either way, let's start talking about Mono Ghost now, to be honest. And as you can see, I have a decent amount of Mono type teams for Generation 9. But either way, let's talk about Monotype Ghost. Now, Monotype Ghost, if you guys know about Ghost as a type, and it's pretty much been on huge increase in viability since Generation 8 overall, not even including Monotype, but overall in competitive Pokemon. Pursuit was removed in Generation 8, which meant Ghost types weren't like dark food anymore. You could easily swap out your Gengar against a Tyranitar, of course, if you don't want to risk Focus Blast, of course, but you could swap out your Gengar against Tyranitar, and your Gengar wouldn't be dead afterwards. That was the most biggest thing for Ghost, and Ghost also got a lot of really strong Pokemon these past 2 generations. Now we're going to be discussing them in full and all of that good stuff. So let's begin with the best Ghost types on Mono Ghost right now. Now, obviously, we have to talk about Fluttermane. Now, Fluttermane is an insane Pokemon. I like to call it Spectria 2.0, but there are some differences between them. But at the end of the day, in terms of like offensive stats and speed, Fluttermane literally is Spectria 2.0. It's faster, it hits harder, and it has a lot more special defense. Now, the thing about Fluttermane that makes it insane is obviously what I just mentioned, is offensive stats. It's move pool and attacking stabs are very strong. Ghost is hardly resisted by anything. His only resistance is dark, and then it has a immunity with normal, which Fairy handles dark, and it also handles the normal types, because normal type has no resistances other than a ghost immunity. So what Fluttermane is able to do is spam these stab moves, which honestly are riskless. Moonblast is an insane move for no reason, 95 base power with a 30% chance to drop special attack, and we also have Shadow Ball, another move that doesn't miss and has low resistances. So this is why Fluttermane is kind of insane. Just with like these 2 moves and its speed tier, it's just very easy to have an advantage in Monotype, where there's not that many types that resist its dual stabs very well, and even then you have good coverage in whether you want to run T-Bolt, you want to run Energy Ball, Mystical Fire, or even run, Calm Mind. Now, Calm Mind is an insane set. It was even more insane when Boost Energy was allowed, but obviously in the recent Monotype bans, Boost Energy has been banned. So Fluttermane doesn't have that thing to really push it over the edge, because what Boost Energy was doing was basically giving Fluttermane a free choice scarf where it could switch on moves. So you could have a choice scarf that allows you to CM. Now, obviously, Fluttermane can still CM just without the boost energy, and it's still Ghost's best Pokemon, to be honest. Like, even without boost energy, Fluttermane is still a ban-worthy Pokemon. It narrowly escaped the ban that happened in Monotype yesterday, and it can now at least run something like Leftovers or Boots or even Spell Tag. It really depends on what you want to run on it. Now, Spell Tag, I say, boosts Shadow Ball's damage to 96 base power, so it's roughly about the same damage as Moonblast is doing. So yeah, Fluttermane is going to be very scary after it gets a single CM up, and then the last move could be Taunt, it could be Substitute. To be honest, it doesn't really need anything else. There isn't that many Pokemon that resist Ghost and Fairy. If we quickly check it up, resist Ghost, resist Fairy. How many Pokemon actually resist this combination? Now, Grafaiai has no bulk to its name. Pyro is not used in Monotype, and its evolutions aren't used either. So there's only 2 fully evolved Pokemon that resist Fluttermane's dual stabs, and they're not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. And Pyro is not used on normal or fire teams. So realistically, it's only Grafii on mono poison teams that can resist Flutter Mane stabs. Now, there are some bulky Pokemon in Monotype, of course. You still have things like Toxapex, but obviously Toxapex can be beaten by, Taunt Flutter Mane sets and also Substitute, because you're not breaking Flutter Mane sub with any special move, really. You also have Gujo, which is weak to Moonblast. Florges does nothing back. Cryo. Again, all of these mons are just very inconsistent checks. Like, you see even something like Bronzong, that's weak to Ghost. Toadscruel is like not really that good of a Pokemon. Like, Fluttermane's insane, the defensive answers aren't there, and obviously this is a must-have on Ghost teams right now because it's the best Pokemon on Ghost. Now, moving on to probably like second place on Ghost is Dragapult. Now, Dragapult has always been a good Pokemon, and is the fastest mon that's actually viable in the tier. You see Electrode. Like, Electrode is currently the fastest Pokemon, and Electrode's kind of ass. So Dragapult is the fastest viable Pokemon. Now, Dragapult has always been good. We all know Choice Specs does a lot of damage. Dragon Dance. Dragon Dance sets were slightly stronger when Terrestrialization was allowed, because you could go Ghost type Terra with Terra Blast, and it would basically be like freaking Ghostium Z and Nat decks all over again, but on a lesser scale. But still, Ghost Terra Blast Dragapult was something people consider to be quite insane, to be honest. But obviously, Terra Blast has no Terrestrialization has been banned, so slightly weaker. Dragon Dance sets are slightly weaker, but you can go with all reliable choice specs with Shadow Ball and Draco Meteor, and then you have coverage in T-Bolt and Flamethrower or Fire Blast, depending on if you like accuracy or not. But at the same time, Dragapult is also kind of scary for hyper offensive teams in the meta that like using screens, e.g. like Mono Fairy teams, because you have Infiltrator. Now, Infiltrator bypasses screens, also bypasses Substitute, so this is Dragapult's best ability that I can run right now. Clear Body is kind of nice, but at the same time, webs aren't really a common thing because only bug types have them, and bug is still somewhat of an average type at the moment. And Infiltrate is just better. Like, in terms of being able to, hit like Grimmsnarl, kind of, even though Grimmsnarl kind of just beats you anyway. But at least you can, do some decent damage to it with T-Bot and Flamethrower while, not caring about screens being up. And it's just better in the Mono Fairy matchup as well, especially with Klefki. Like, Klefki won't be able to take a Fire Blast or Flamethrower from Dragapult or even a Shadow Ball. So yeah, that is it for Dragapult. Not too much, change in Dragapult's viability. Still one of the best Pokemon on both Dragon and Ghost, particularly Ghost right now. So yeah, and now the third Mon that I believe is S tier in Ghost, like the third best Pokemon in the meta right now, is definitely Mimikyu. Now, Mimikyu is what I call a get out of jail free card. Like, Mimikyu's disguise ability is honestly one of the best abilities in the entire game. It helps a lot versus the Ghost Mirror. It pretty much is Ghost's best way of dealing with Dark, if just in case Flower Main gets banned. But yeah, Mimikyu is also Ghost's best way of dealing with Dark because it's a Fairy type, and Dark is weak to Fairy. Now, Mimikyu has always been running the same set. I don't think I've seen any other different set with Mimikyu in Gen 9 so far. It's pretty much just SD free attacks. Now, you could either run Drain Punch or Shadow Claw. I prefer Shadow Claw right now, honestly, because Drain Punch hits the steel types, but I don't think Ghost is too preoccupied with steel, to be honest, and I don't think it's really that worth it. Having a stronger stab move than Shadow Sneak on the Ghost side is always strong. Now, of course, Shadow Claw is a weak ass move, but yeah, it's still nice to have a lot stronger Ghost stab than Shadow Sneak. And then you run Life Orb. This is literally the Mimikyu set of all time in Generation 9. There is literally nothing else Mimikyu runs. You literally run Mimikyu for the disguise, and it's such a strong ability because you can stop setup sweepers. It's good against the Mono Dragon. Stuff like freaking not even Bax Caliber, things like Dragonite, things like basically any setup sweeper Mimikyu has an advantage against, and particularly against Dark, where Dark has a lot of strong attackers like Chen Pao, Chi Yu. You do solid damage for those who play rough, and yeah, there's no Ghost team that shouldn't be running Mimikyu. If you aren't running Mimikyu on Mono Ghost, your team is automatically just worse, in my opinion. Like, I've seen many Mono Ghost teams not running Mimikyu, and I'm like, why wouldn't you run Mimikyu? Is like the freest mon on Ghost to run, and it really helps against the Dark matchup. Particularly if Flutter Mane gets banned down the line, there's no reason why Mimikyu shouldn't be ran whatsoever. Now onto the ghost types that are solid mons on Mono Ghost. Like these are probably like the A rank Pokemon mons that you'd like to have on the team. Like they're not necessities. I still believe things like Fluttermane, Mimikyu, and Dragapult are low key necessities on Mono Ghost. But at the same time, these mons that I'm about to speak about are quite good additions onto a Ghost team, and you'd like to have them on your team. Now the first one I want to talk about is Annihilate, Primate's new evolution. It has the legendary Ghost fighting stab combination, which is currently unresisted until Hisuian Zoroark comes into the picture. But at the same time, Annihilate is one of Ghost's best Pokemon for good reason. It's surprisingly bulky, with that massive 110 HP stat and decent defenses with 80 and 90 respectively in defense and special defense. Now, what makes Annihilate so strong in my opinion? It has a multitude of sets that work pretty well on Mono Ghost. The first one I want to talk about is Choice Scarf Annihilate. Now, Choice Scarf Annihilate, it has a decent speed tail of 90, and what I like to say about Choice Scarfers is if they have U-turn, they're good. Like, Annihilate has a good speed tier, it has a decent speed tier, and it also has a U-turn, so it makes a Scarf set pretty much really good. It obviously has the Ghost Fighting combination, which is currently unresisted, so it's pretty hard to switch into Annihilate, all things considered, depending on what move it clicks at whatever time. And obviously, you could either run Rage Fist or Shadow Claw in that slot. Now, I believe Shadow Claw is low-key better than Rage Fist on Scarf sets, but at the same time, as long as you take a bit of damage, Rage Fist is automatically 100 base power, which is a lot stronger than Shadow Claw is. So it's really up to your preference, to be honest, whether you want to run Shadow Claw or Rage Fist. And then the last move that it usually runs on Scarf is either Gunk Shot for the Fairy matchup, Stone Edge for Flying, or EQ. Now EQ is kinda worse because like flying is not really that good right now, but at the same time EQ isn't really too necessary. Gunk Shot is definitely better on Scarf because you can hit fairy types for super effective damage, and Gunk Shot is a very strong move, and obviously you just go all of that. Now the next Annihilate set that has been seen a lot more usage is the Bulk Up set. Now Bulk Up Rage Fist is kind of insane against more bulky teams that you're seeing. Like Mono Water is running a lot more bulkier teams right now because Palafin got banned, and you're probably wondering how is Water running bulk when things like Toxapex got neutered and recovers 8 PP. But Water has a good amount of defensive Pokemon, including Dondozo, Gastrodon, Quagsire, Toxapex. All of those Pokemon kind of just get folded by Taunt, Bulk Up, Rage Fist, CC, Annihilate, and yeah, this thing is a menace to face if you have a slightly less offensive inclined team. And not to say Ghost doesn't need to run the set all the time, but if it wants to beat some bulkier squads that it might struggle against, then this is probably the best Annihilate set to use. And obviously, you could run some EVs, customize it a little bit. I was thinking earlier that you run enough speed for something like maybe base 70s. You probably want to be faster than a Breloom or something, you know, so you're able to outspeed that. If you manage to get some hazards up on Ghost side, you just OHKO that with, you know, CC or Rage Fist if it gets boosted. So yeah, Annihilate is a pretty solid Pokemon on Mono Ghost. Now onto Frostlass. Now I put Frostlass here because you know, it's one of Ghost's best hazards. Like in terms of if you want to see what Ghost has in terms of hazards, you have Palossand and Annihilate for rocks, which I didn't mention on Annihilate. I don't think it really wants to be running rocks, but if you really feel like you want your Mono Ghost team to have rocks, run it. Fair enough. We'll talk about Palossand in a little bit, but also in terms of spikes, Frostlass and Brambleghast are the only spikers. Now, Frostlass is obviously better than Brambleghast at spiking because it's faster, it has Taunt, it has Destiny Bond, all of that good stuff. It also has Will-O-Wisp. So, Frostlass is mostly seen on Mono Ghost HOs that run Frostlass as a suicide lead with Focus Sash. Now, Frostlass is able to do, like, spikes on Ghost has always been good because obviously Ghost types are immune to Rapid Spin, and it's even better now because defog distribution has been like completely destroyed. Like if you come look at the defog distribution right now, all of these are exclusively fighting types other than flying types, sorry, other than Frostmoth, Lurantis, and that's about it. And Sizzle. So other than that, the majority of the typings have no access to defog, and even if they have access to rapid spin, Ghost types can't be spun on. So that's why Spikes is so strong on Ghost HO. Now, in terms of a Frostlass set, Taunt, Spikes, you can either run Shadow Ball, or yeah, you probably want to run Shadow Ball or Icy Wind. It really depends. And then you're on Destiny Bond in the last slot. Now, this is incredibly telegraphed as a Frostlass lead set. Everyone probably always expects the Destiny Bond coming, but at least if you go max special attack, max speed, you're able to get off some decent damage with Shadow Ball. And then some people might just not remember this thing has Destiny Bond, but either way, Frostlass enables, you know, hazard stacking ghost teams very, very well, especially in conjunction with Gold Dengo, which I'll talk about right now, because Gold Dengo prevents defog and also prevents rapid spin because it's a ghost type. So it also prevents mortal spin, which is also a new move that Glimora has, which is basically a poison rapid spin. And obviously, a poison rapid spin can hit ghost types because ghosts aren't immune to poison, but at the same time, Gold Dengo's speed steel typing prevents it from being hit by poison type moves. Now, what Gold Dengo does for Ghost is obviously just, you know, being a strong special attacker with a very strong typing in Steel and Ghost. And it has a signature move called Make It Rain, where it's basically a stronger flash cannon that drops your special attack stat by 1. So it makes Gold Dengo a pretty scary choice specs wall breaker, especially with spike support, because it has Focus Blast, it has Shadow Ball, so Ghost Fighting is already covered, able to hit every single Pokemon in the tier. And then as its last move, it has Trick. So most of these Ghost types have Trick, so you're able to run that if you're running choice sets. And then, yeah, Goldengo hits pretty freaking hard. Now, issue with Gold Dengo is on Steel, like it's a very solid Pokemon on Steel, don't get me wrong, it's A tier, but at the same time, Goldengo's speed tier really lets it down, and some weaknesses like to the Ghost Mirror and whatnot really hampers it. Is outsped by Annihilate, is outsped by Fluttermane, is outsped by Gengar. Like Goldengo has to really be careful when it's not running a non-choice scarf set because its speed tier isn't really the best. But otherwise, Goldengo is a necessity if you want to be running Frostlass spikes, to be honest, because you're able to get rid of you're able to deter any hazard removal options with Goldengo, so that's why it's used a lot. Now onto Gengar. Gengar's limelight has been heavily reduced at the beginning of this generation just because Fluttermane is directly competing with it for a slot. Like, you can probably find the slot for Gengar, but at the same time, you're probably missing one of the above Pokemon that I've talked about if you're trying to run Gengar. But Gengar's still a solid Pokemon on Ghost just because it's fast, it still hits hard. Nasty Plot is a pretty strong set as well, and, is able to run all of these items quite well. Choice Scarf Gengar is also one of its best sets. You have Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, Destiny Bond as well. You also have access to Trick, and you also have Energy Ball, which is pretty nice to hit things like Gastrodon, which Spadef Gastrodon should be able to handle Gengar, but it can't switch into Energy Ball whatsoever. So there's things like that that make Gengar pretty good right now, but it is often struggling to find a spot on Mono Ghost, in my opinion. Like, a lot of the Ghost teams that I've been using aren't including Gengar just because Fluttermane is directly like better than it in terms of that, and then you have things like Goldengo that provide more utility. But don't get me wrong, if you see a Gengar, it's still going to do a lot of work. Its dual stab is pretty strong, Focus Blast access, Nasty Plot access. Like, don't underestimate Gengar. Like, its speed tier is also still pretty solid. But yeah, on to Skeledirge, which is the last Pokemon I want to talk about here. I still think Skeledirge is one of the best new Pokemon introduced in Generation 9. It's honestly my favorite Pokemon to use on Mono Ghost, and I'll tell you why. Now, if you run Skeledirge, defensive Skeledirge set with 248, enough speed to outspeed out Azumarill, also base 50 base Pokemon, and then the rest in defense. This mon has handled so many threats. Even on Mono Dark, this mon has handled so many threats just because it has Unaware. And I tell you now, if it didn't have Unaware, it would be a lot worse. But it has Unaware, which makes it pretty fucking good. Now, it has access to Will-O-Wisp, it has access to Hex, and it also has access to Torch Song, which Torch Song is like one of the most broken moves like introduced in Generation 9. Like, it gets Skeledirge, a mon that already has good special attack, and when you're not investing in it, it's slightly passive, but it allows it to boost its special attack. It makes Hex stronger, it makes Will-O-Wisp Hex combination even stronger, and yeah, Skeledirge is honestly Ghost's best bulky Pokemon. And It does have some undesirable weaknesses, e.g. a weakness to rocks, especially if you're not running heavy duty boots, a weakness to ground. But at the same time, Cobra Berry is probably the best berry you want to run because dark teams are so common on ladder right now. Brimstone screens plus, Chen Pao Chi Yu, all of Roaring Moon, like Skeledurge beats all of those other than GU, to be honest. And the reason why it's able to do that is because you take a crunch, you Will-O-Wisp, you obviously ignore their stat boost, particularly from a Dragon Dance in Roaring Moon, and then yeah, Skeledurge can 1v1 them pretty well, and it has access to recovery. Like, it got all the tools it needed to become a very solid, ghost defensive Pokemon. It has recovery, it has Will-O-Wisp, it has Unaware. Like, it got all the tools it needed to be successful, and I'm happy because all of the Gen 9 starters are solid Pokemon. Now, a lot of people are still sleeping on Skeledurge on Ghost teams, and they're like, oh, Ghost doesn't really have space to fit Skeledurge, but if you're not going particularly hazard stacking, or you're just like going, like you're just slapping 6 of the good Ghost ones onto a team, Skeledurge is one that would definitely appreciate a slot on your team. Alright, there's still some Ghost Pokemon to discuss, but yeah, let's speak about some of the good slash alright Pokemon on Ghost, roughly around B tier if you're to rank them onto viability rankings. Now, these ones are still quite good. Now, let me not say quite good because they'll be in A. They're still good Pokemon, but at the same time, they're often struggling to find a slot on Ghost over like the better Pokemon, and like they have some notable flaws which holds them back. Now I'm going to speak about Ceruledge first because Ceruledge is still something that I could have put in A, but at the same time, like, I still think it's kind of awkward to fit on Ghost. But I've been seeing a lot of Pokemon players using Ceruledge on Mono Ghost, and it's probably could make it into like an A rank tier, to be honest. Now, what Ceruledge has going for it is obviously priority Shadow Sneak, which helps a lot in the mirror matchup. It also has a really strong Bitter Blade move, which obviously heals 50% of the damage dealt, and his 90 base power is insane. And obviously, people have been running some interesting sets of Ceruledge, to be honest. You can run Endure, Weak Armor, which you're able to take all of the time one hit at least, and then have like a weakness policy, or boosting Berry like Lychee, which boosts Ceruledge's attack stat. And then you have like CC as coverage, or Shadow Claw, but I think CC is better. You obviously have Sneak and Close Combat as Ghost Fighting Stab and Ghost Fighting combination, which is unresisted. And yeah, Ceruledge hits hard and it's decently quick and it has priority. So the thing why I feel like Ceruledge is awkward on Ghost compared to Fire, I feel like Ceruledge is very strong on Fire, but particularly because you have Torkoal Sun boosting Bitter Blade's damage. But on Ghost is a bit more nuanced. It's slightly you can argue less for its spot on Ghost teams, but at the same time, it's still a solid win con for Ghost, and yeah, it does things. It's just that I don't know, it just doesn't fit as well as I'd like it to on like the Ghost teams that I'm using. But overall, it could definitely be in like the solid Mons section, but it's definitely at the top of the like good Mons that I'm about to speak about. Now I'm going to speak about Brambleghast now. I really wanted to put Brambleghast in niche, but considering the fact that it's Ghost's only removal option, I kind of have to include it like in a good Mons section, because like Brambleghast doesn't have the worst stats in the world. As an offensive Pokemon, it's actually decent. It has 115 attack, it has 90 speed. It's faster than Ceruledge. Like, it has a decent speed tier. But the thing is about Brambleghast, like, Grass Ghost isn't doing it any favors. It has common weaknesses, Ice, Flying. It loses its poison resistance. Like, Brambleghast is literally on your team to spin away like hazards, because Ghost is lacking hazard removal like most types are, but other than flying. So Brambleghast is here for spinning. It has Shadow Sneak, so it's helpful in the mirror matchup somewhat. It has Power Whip, which honestly does hit hard, and in terms of the water matchup, Brambleghast is solid for that, like over Ceruledge, which would be worse for your water matchup because it's a fire type. But at the same time, yeah, Brambleghast, I'm not a fan of it, frankly. Like, I would prefer Ghost HOs would prefer not to run it, because it's frankly just a liability. Like, it doesn't really have the best coverage. It doesn't have like CC like Ceruledge. It literally only has Grass and Ghost to its name. It also has Strength Sap, which is okay, but at the same time, Brambleghast is not niche. It's clearly not niche because it's Ghost's only removal option, but at the same time, it's just, you know, you don't need to run this Pokemon on most teams you're making with Mono Ghost. Sableye and Spiritomb, I'll speak about these guys at the same time because I think that they fill a similar role to one another. Like, Sableye has Prankster, which is able to, you know, burn anything that isn't a dark type, and it's a decent wall for Ghost if you want to go more like bulky offense on Ghost side. It's just that, you know, Sableye is weak to Fairy, and you know, with Fluttermane running around, it makes your Ghost mirror matchup a lot worse, to be honest. Same thing with Spiritomb, but at least Spiritomb has offensive profile and can potentially Oko Fluttermane with Sucker Punch. So that's why I would say Spiritomb is slightly better than Sableye in terms of if you want a Ghost Dark type that, you know, a modern Ghost that isn't weak to Ghost, essentially. That's the reason why you're running these two. And Spiritomb is better because it has a more offensive profile in such an offensive metagame. Sucker Punch is able to deal with a lot of, you know, like the Ghost Mirror. Like, that's why Spiritomb is good, because it's you know, the Ghost Mirror matchup. Sableye, on the other hand, if you're gonna run a defensive Ghost, run Skeledirge. Skeledirge doesn't have to worry about not being able to burn dark types because of Prankster, and it's a lot bulkier. Like, Sableye is okay, you can run Sableye, but at the same time Skeledirge just kind of outclasses it as a bulky Ghost right now, and Spiritomb is definitely a decent pick if for the Ghost Mirror matchup because Sucker Punch is so strong. So we've entered the niche category of Mons. Now, is pretty much the remaining Ghost Pokemon that I want to talk about. A lot of them are just incredibly niche, and you don't need to run them on Ghost, or your team is going to be slightly worse if you're running these Pokemon because they are just directly outclassed by the better Pokemon. Now, let's speak about Drifblim. Now, Drifblim is interesting because I haven't seen a single Drifblim, and some people have been saying that high ladder players are running defensive Drifblim on, you know, because it has access to Will-O-Wisp, Hex, and Strength Sap. Like, it's directly better as a defensive Pokemon than Brambleghast, for example, but at the same time, yeah, it's also Ghost's second removal option with Defog, so that's why people have been running Drifblim. But I still say it's somewhat niche because if you go into one defense, your other defense is really lacking. On one side, like if you go Fizz Def Drifblim, your special defense is lacking horribly. Even with that massive HP stat, you're not taking hits well. Ghost Flying also gives you a, you know, Rock's weakness, so you're pretty much forced to run heavy duty boots, especially if you're facing a team that's able to, you know, get rocks up on you versus one of Ghost. And yeah, it's just a tough time for Drifblim, to be honest. But a set like Will-O-Wisp, Hex, Strength Sap, and you know, what other move does it get? I think it was given Air Slash. Or was it? I don't even remember what move this thing got, but any of its offensive like moves like Air Slash or maybe like Destiny Bond or T-Wave, options like that could work for Drifblim. But other than that, I don't know what this thing is really offering other than you know, Defog. But yeah, it's quite niche. Mismagius, on the other hand, is directly just outclassed. Like, Fluttermane is the better Mismagius, and even then, Gengar is better than Mismagius. Mismagius really just doesn't have a space on Ghost if Gengar and Fluttermane are around. And even if Fluttermane gets banned, Gengar is just going to be used more just because, you know, it's just directly worse than Gengar. It's slower, it's weaker. It has more special defense, sure, but being an offensive Pokemon, who actually cares about the defenses in this context where, you know, Mismagius hits, you know, weaker and is slower. Like, it also lacks Gengar's dual stab. Like, Mismagius isn't a bad Pokemon by any means, it's just horribly outclassed. Oricorio Sensu is interesting because it's also another defogger like Drifblim is, but at the same time, I don't know, it's just struggling to find a spot. It's not particularly bulky. Drifblim is bulkier, has Will-O-Wisp access, it has Hex and Strength Sap. Like, Oricorio Sensu does have Roost, but at the same time, Roost is worse than Strength Sap, especially the fact that Strength Sap is still 16 PP while Roost is only 8 PP now. And yeah, if you want to try an offensive Oricorio Sensu set with like Quiver Dance, I would still just tell you to run like Nasty Plot Gengar or Fluttermane. You also have to rely on, you know, Hurricane as your secondary stab, which can miss, especially when you're facing like the Dark matchup. Like, Hurricane missing is going to be awful for you, to be honest. So Oricorio Sensu is quite niche. Palossand is in the same situation as one of Ghost's only Stealth Rockers, but, you know, it's still outclassed by like Skeledirge as a defensive Ghost, just because Ghost Ground gives it a lot of weaknesses it doesn't want. It gives it a nice weakness where it wants to, where Skeledirge resists ice. Is also much more passive than Skeledirge, Scared Edge can boost its special attack with Torch Song. Palosan really just have to go for like Will-O-Wisp Hex. But it still has Recovery and it still has Rock, so it's not the worst Pokemon again. Like, all of these mons are niche, they're not necessarily bad, but they're struggling to find a spot on Mono Ghost. Poltegeist, again, I say is niche because Shell Smash is really strong, but at the same time, it does need hazard removal support because Poltegeist is very reliant on his Sash to really do anything. Like, if his Sash is broken, it's just gonna die to any move. Like, you could honestly win games against like certain types if you get a Shell Smash up and you know, your Sash isn't broken, because you can't be revenge killed, especially by like things like Water, which now lost, you know, Palafin, Jet Punch and things like that. But at the same time, you do need hazard removal either from, you know, Bramblegast and Drifblim or Orikuru Sensu for Poltergeist to really be effective. And at the same time, yeah, like all of those mons are just kind of niche in my opinion. So yeah, Poltergeist isn't really having the best time on Ghost. And then Rotom. Now, Rotom is somewhat interesting because it's Scarf Trick, but at the same time, it's just outclassed by, like, you know, even Miss Magius. Like, Rotom isn't too fast. It's not that, you know, bulky. It does give you an electric typing, which can Volt Switch, but at the same time, you don't really need that, do you? On, you know, Mono Ghost. But I would say that Rotom does offer dual screens, which Ghost doesn't really have access to other than Prankster Sableye. But again, Sableye is better for that since, you know, it has Prankster, so it's able to get out the screens before, you know, taking damage, you know. So yeah, Rotom is quite niche. And before I end off and show you guys some examples of some Mono Ghost teams, let's speak about the last fully evolved Pokemon on you know, Ghost, which is Bayonet. Now, Bayonet has no space on Ghost. Don't run Bayonet, is awful. It really has nothing going for it. Like, you could say, oh, Bayonet, you know, has Sucker Punch. That Shadow Sneak is a decent, you know, physical Ghost attacker. You have Bramblegast, which is it has dual stab on grass. It also has the same attack stat and is miles faster. You have Cerulege, you have physical Dragapult, you have Mimikyu. What is Bayonet offering Ghost that those things don't offer? Insomnia? Like, I'm really just confused. There's no reason to be running Bayonet. It's awful. It's really bad. So guys, we've discussed Mono Ghost in quite a few detail right now, and I'm just here to show you some Mono Ghost teams that I've built throughout, you know, I only have one actually because I deleted the other one, but I would show you the team building process for building certain, you know, Mono Ghost teams. Now, this is the first Mono Ghost team I want to talk about. It's obviously Frostlass hazard stacking. You lead off with Frostlass, you get up spikes, you know, you're able to Destiny Bond something. And obviously, I have to change this from Boost Energy to another item, Spell Tag, Leftovers, doesn't really matter. But at the same time, yeah, you get up the spikes. You obviously have Goldengo. Goldengo Choice Scarf is probably the best option you could be running here because it you know, patches up Goldengo's speed to issues, which is its biggest problem, to be honest. You also have Mimikyu, which is a necessity on Ghost teams. You know, with Spike support, Mimikyu's, you know, often lacking damage even at +2. It's obviously, you know, brought up tenfold. Like, I'm pretty sure with Spike support, you can one-shot Ting-Lu after Spikes, where from, you know, full HP, you wouldn't be able to do that, assuming screens aren't up. Specs Dragapult, obviously, fastest mon in the tier, another necessity on Ghost teams. And then, like I said earlier, Poltegeist, you probably want to be running, you know, with Bramblegast support or, you know, Defog from Orikuru, Sensu, or Drifblim, because frankly, like, Ghost doesn't have any other options of stopping, you know, rocks getting up, and Poltegeist with without a Sash is very, very niche. Now, obviously, I could replace Poltegeist here with either Cerulege or Gengar. Frankly, Cerulege, to be honest. Like, Cerulege is also solid with Spike support. You could run an SD set with Shadow Sneak and Bitter Blade. And obviously, with the mirror matchup is very helpful. Or you could run Endure with the Lychee Berry, like I mentioned earlier. Any Cerulege set would probably work here for, you know, Ghost Hazard stacking. And you have a decent team here. Now, let's go over some non-hazard stacking Ghost teams that we could run. Now, like I said, I feel like with Monotype, it's just easy to slap certain mons on. You want the Mimikyu, you want the Dragapult, you also want the Fluttermane. Like I said, these three S tiers are practically necessities on, you know, Mono Ghost. Now, it really depends on what you want to go from here. Obviously, you could shift in to, you know, Cerulege and Annihilate, like, just continue the hyper offense. Like I said, if you want the Ghost Mirror to be slightly easier for you, you could add the Spiritomb somewhere. Has decent bulk of HP investment. Then you could go like Annihilate, like with a choice scarf. Or you could even go main with a choice scarf. That's something that's interesting right now. You could go choice scarf flutter main. Now, this thing has Shadow Ball, Moonblast. It does not have Destiny Bond, which is a shame, but you know, we move. In terms of special coverage, doesn't even have Trick. If it has Trick, I'll run Trick. Okay, doesn't have Trick. Okay, that's kind of annoying. Memento could work. Memento could work, and you know, T-Bolt, and you have the Scarf Flutter main. Now, obviously, Scarf Flutter main would be Ghost's best speed options, speed control option. Could run Scarf Pult, but Scarf Pult is kind of trolling. And yeah, standard Mimikyu set with Swords Dance, all of that good stuff. Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, and well, Shadow Claw, and then Play Rough. And yeah, that's Mimikyu done. Dragapult with choice specs. It's very simple to build Mono Ghost. Like, you have your 3 guaranteed Pokemon, and then you just build from there. Fire Blast, T-Bolt, build from there. So you have that. But obviously here you have 2 special attackers, 1 physical attacker. You probably want another special attacker here, so maybe Annihilate doesn't fit too well. You could probably slap on Skeledurge or Goldengo, but I feel like Goldengo is a lot stronger when you have Frostlight Spikes, for example. But yeah, Skeledurge could easily fit with that bulky set that I mentioned with 248 EVs, 132 defense. I can't get the numbers. 132 defense, 128 speed with a bold nature, and yeah, this is like one of my favorite Skeledurge sets to run. But yeah, as you can see, Ghost is somewhat easy to build. Obviously, you don't have to have Spiritomb on it. Again, like, Spiritomb is like a B tier Pokemon, and then yeah, you could have Gengar even. Gengar or Ceruledge. Definitely Ceruledge, Annihilate, and yeah, this is basically what Ghost is running in Generation 9. But yeah, hopefully you guys are a bit more informed on how to run Ghost in Generation 9. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel yet again if you're not subscribed. We'll try and do this for all of the monotypings right now, but things are changing, so you know, things are so volatile essentially. Like, Fluttermane avoided the ban. Like, I could have made this video and Fluttermane could have been banned, and like the whole like video would have been changed. But yeah, things are changing a lot in Monotype. People are still trying to see if certain types are broken, certain Pokemon are broken, and yeah. But yeah, as of this video, Fluttermane is still allowed in Gen 9 Monotype. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.